Shalom Chaverim. I am a cultural, spiritual Zionist and not a political Zionist. I support the position of Echad Ha'am. His name was Asher Tzvi Hirsch Ginsburg. He was a Hebrew journalist and essayist and one of the foremost pre-state Zionists. He envisioned a Jewish spiritual center in Eretz Yisrael. His views regarding the purpose of a Jewish state contrasted with those of prominent figures within the Zionist movement, such as Theodor Herzl, the founder of political Zionism. Unlike Herzl, Echad Ha'am strived for a Jewish state and not merely a state of Jews. The political Zionists won out in the end, and their decisions, as well as those of European leaders that took place at the end of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century, have led us to the eternal conflict in the Middle East. For centuries prior to World War I, Palestine was an Ottoman province with no clear boundaries. Muslims were the majority, living peacefully alongside small Christian and Jewish communities. Few, if any, had nationalist aspirations. The relationships began to shift in the beginning of the 20th century as a group of young socialist revolutionaries, including the founders of the future state of Israel, immigrated in waves from Russia and Eastern Europe. They believed that the only answer to anti-Semitism was Zionism, and the vision of a Jewish home in the land of the Hebrew Bible. The League of Nations carved up the former Ottoman lands. The Mandate for Palestine, written in 1920, stood out for its international commitment to the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people. The early Zionists, being idealists, believed that the latest technology and having electricity available to all would improve everyone's lives. Ze'ev Jabotinsky, whose vision of Zionism was the precursor to Likud, the party of Benjamin Netanyahu, argued against making any concessions for Arab nationalism. He refused to acknowledge that Jewish nationalism made no sense without supporting Arab nationalism. In February 1947, the British government announced that it wanted to end the mandate. The United Nations set up the Special Committee on Palestine, and maybe you've seen it abbreviated UNSCOP, to recommend a solution. At this point, there were about 700,000 Jews out of a population of 2 million. The Holocaust was a genocide and a horrible massacre committed by Europeans, while the United States watched by, stood by, and did nothing. Colonial ideology was very much at the heart of European and United States thinking. They were going to fix the tragedy of the Holocaust, so long as it was not at their expense. The fix would be to ignore the stirrings of Arab nationalism. Now, the vast majority of Jewish refugees who came were not Zionists. They did not have a choice about where to go. They went from displaced person camps to the newly partitioned Palestine. The refugees of the concentration and death camps were from countries that refused to let them go back, refused to let them return to their home countries. Neither the Zionists nor the Arabs accepted or recognized the national movements of the other. There were many different partition plans, giving different percentages to Jews and Arabs. No matter how it was calculated, who gets how much, based on population, on land, on coast, and it didn't seem to matter. One side or the other did not accept the plan. Jews did not want to be a minority in an Arab state, and Arabs did not want to be a minority within a Jewish state. The State of Israel declared its establishment on 14 May 1948, the eve of the British termination of the Mandate. On 15 May 1948, the armies of neighboring Arab states invaded the area of former mandatory Palestine, starting the First Arab-Israeli War. As the fighting escalated, Arab residents streamed across the partition borders, leaving the newly established State of Israel. Those who left their homes at the urging of Arab governments were promised that they could return after a successful invasion. The invasion was not successful. Depending on how you count, there has been between 7 and 17 wars between Israel and the surrounding Arab countries, the latest being the Israel-Hamas war. Since the Ottoman Empire was divided up at the end of World War I in 1918, European and Middle East governments have used Jewish and Arab nationalism for their own purposes. From the end of the 20th century until today, governments outside the region have taken sides and used different factions as surrogates. Arab scholars and Israeli academics have written extensively about the flight of the Arab citizens and the subsequent wars. How did it all happen? As you might expect, there are two distinct and different versions. And as with disputed events in history, the truth lies somewhere in the middle. What makes this a dilemma is that neither side is blameless, neither side is completely right. By taking sides, we are not supporting either Israel or Palestine. We are supporting the governments that are using them as surrogates. Make no mistake, Iran is not interested in the welfare of the Palestinian people or in creating a free Palestine. Blaming and threatening Jews and Arabs around the world will not create peace, will not solve the necessity of an independent Palestine. This regional war can only be resolved by the nations in the region, and Russia, China, North Korea, and Iran are not part of the solution. Shalom Chaverim.